Well, welcome everyone to tonight's Tech Topics. We are going to be covering getting started with coding, a topic that might be familiar with those of you that joined us yesterday for our STEAM time. My name is Lisa. I'm with the Tampa Hillsborough County Public Library, and I'm excited to see you all here. Today we're talking about getting started with coding, and we're going to go through kind of a broad overview of what coding is, some of the ways that we can get started learning it, and how we can use it in our day-to-day lives and moving forward. So without further ado, we'll jump right in. So getting started here, we are looking at the basics. What is coding? So the big thing that we're going to look at here is code is the language. These are the words. This is what we're typing in. Coding is when we use that language to write instructions for our computer or an app to follow. So code is the language, coding is telling that language what we need it to do, or using that language to tell the device what we need it to do. So we've got our little code scrolling over here, matrix style. That's the code going through the matrix. So you're in this class, you're obviously interested in what it is and maybe getting started with learning it for yourself, but you might be asking yourself, but why though? Why do I need to learn coding? What is it good for? So it's going to be a good starting point for a lot of folks across the board because it's going to teach you some real fundamental basic skills that translate to anything else you might want to tackle, be it for work or for school. It's going to have a lot of that critical thinking and logic building. So it's not necessarily even that it's super important to learn how to code and build your own website. That result might not be the most important part, but the important part might be is that you're training your brain on how to follow these logic patterns. And that translates to everything else that we do in our day-to-day. So finding those logic patterns, working on those problem-solving skills, and it might look very cut and dry, very mathematical, but there's a ton of creativity involved in it. When we think about coding, you're going to see no two people code a problem or a solution to a problem the same way. There's always nuances of language involved in a different way of approaching every problem that you have. So there's a ton of creativity still in that. So it is not all dry numbers and words and robotic things. But the bonus that you might be looking at here is that there's a strong trend that we've seen across all professional fields is that when people apply to jobs and they have that strong coding background and experience on their resume, they're automatically earning more money than somebody with the otherwise same set of skills walking into that job interview. So we're seeing a lot of jobs that have kind of a hybrid function where coding is going to be a small or a large part of another job. So they might not be a computer programmer, they might not be an app developer, but their day-to-day job will still involve some element of coding. And that could be as simple as knowing how to use Microsoft Excel really well and building these spreadsheets that have these extended functions. So that could be a very basic version of what they're looking for, or it could be something much beyond that. But we're seeing a strong trend of folks making more money with that coding skill. So that's, in this economy, we're always looking to be able to earn a little bit more for that. It could also be a good way for you to maybe build a career for yourself. If you're looking to maybe work from home, build a career from scratch, it's not going to happen overnight. Even with the best of coding training, you would still have to build that experience, build that portfolio, and really learn about your subject matter and get practice and get a portfolio together with all of your projects. But if you keep at that and if you really build that skill, it could be a way to go into business for yourself and do freelance coding work. So there's a lot of independence involved in that, and there's also independence in the way that you can learn the skill. One of the huge advantages to diving into learning how to code is that there's no degree requirement specifically for this. Now, a specific job might require you to have a bachelor's degree or what have you for that specific job, but coding itself doesn't need a college degree. So you could learn it any way that you like. There's tons of free resources, and we're going to go over some of those in this session. But there are also coding camps that you can go through, or university level classes where you can learn about coding. So there's tons of different ways to learn. Not everyone learns in the same way best, so we can kind of explore that. And the big thing is that keep in mind that this is kind of applicable across all professional fields. Everything that we touch on today has some level of technology and coding involved. So no matter what field you might want to work in or change into, odds are pretty good that if you have a background in coding, you'll really be able to apply that in that field. So that's the why. Now we're going to get into what it is. So these are just some of the programming languages that are the most in demand that we see. We got that information from a UC Berkeley extension. So on the left here, I've got 3 broken down. We've got HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So those are going to be your 3 kind of foundational languages for the www. So HTML, the hypertext markup language, that's the code that tells the website what's on there. That's going to tell it what word is going to be on there. What does it say? The CSS, the cascading style sheets, this is when we tell those words in that website what we want it to look like. So that's when we throw the razzle dazzle on there. That's when we can make letters bold, or that's when we can insert a picture in there and show how that's going to line up on the page. The CSS style sheets, that's how we make it pretty. So the HTML tells you what's there. The CSS makes it pretty, makes it interesting. The JavaScript is what tells the website to do things. That's where you can take it to that next level where you can have a button that you can click on there to navigate between pages, or a button where you can have maybe an online marketplace or have it do another thing or play music. So the HTML says what's there, the CSS is what does it look like, and the JavaScript, what does it do. So those 3 kind of go hand in hand for a lot of work. And on the right here, I've got a bunch of other languages that we're going to fly through real quick. Python is a super, super common beginner coding language that is very popular right now, and it's one that you see a ton of resources for learning across all different age groups. This is one that you'll see addressed a lot in kids' toys for kid coding learning resources, all the way up through full-on coding camps for adults. Java is not to be confused with JavaScript. It's a different thing, but Java is the coding language of Android devices. Other things as well, but the big thing that you'll see it apply to is Android mobile devices. Swift is the coding language that you'll be seeing it for iOS devices, for your iPhones and your Apple devices. Now, Swift does have a foundation of the C++ languages that you might have heard of before. We're going to talk about those as well. If you're going into higher academia, if you're going to grad school, maybe doing some PhD research, you're absolutely going to run into R or RStudio. That is all about data mining and getting that data from the research and interpreting it, and you will absolutely be running into R coding at higher academic levels. SQL, that's all about your databases. You will see that in a lot of office administrative type positions as you get into those functions. C and C++, you don't see it as often listed anymore as in demand, but that is also a very foundational coding language that you might have seen a lot of higher level certifications for in years past. But a lot of the newer code is kind of has that as the foundation. The fundamentals of it are very similar. Ruby is all about automation, desktop apps, that kind of thing. And PHP is used primarily for web-based apps. So this is a very broad generalization. All of these languages have many, many other different applications and uses. But if you're kind of looking for a starting point for which one might be most relevant for you, that can kind of point you in the right direction for it. And we'll backtrack during the Q&A if we need to. Long story short, with all these languages is that there is no wrong choice with them. All of them have a lot of the same structure that will go through all of them. So if you learn one, you're not at a complete disadvantage. If you end up changing track and wanting to do something different, a lot of that will translate to the other languages that you'll be able to pick up. I'm not going to say instantly, that's never the case, but there's going to be enough overlap that it should be easy to transition between them to pick up the other language if you have the one. All right. Keep on clicking through here. So now I'm going to get into some of the ways that you can get started on learning these programs. The first one I pulled up here is our LinkedIn Learning resource. LinkedIn Learning is free with your library card. As long as you have a library card in good standing, you get to that through the library website, and I'm going to show you how to navigate to that shortly. But yeah, get yourself pulled into LinkedIn Learning. There's a ton of different courses and learning paths for any of these languages, and anything from beginner level courses up through more advanced things, more specialized things. So while I have you here, I'm going to pull up my browser here and show that to you. So when you're on the main library website here, you're going to go to, you can either go to hcplc.org and then just do a straight online classes. You want to go directly to the page, but otherwise, if you don't remember it, just go to the main page, go to Learning and Research, and click on Online Classes. Click on LinkedIn Learning, and that'll let you log in with your library card. There we go. So once you're in, you'll just do a quick search for coding. So once you have it pulled up, you can narrow it down by beginners content or by who puts the content out. If you're looking for the full courses or just maybe a specific video, there's lots of different ways to tackle that. You see we have a whole bunch of different approaches here, from the very specific to the more broad getting started courses on your LinkedIn Learning. So you'll get to that through the library, hcplc.org/online classes, LinkedIn Learning, and then log in with your library card and PIN. All right, let me get back to our slide here. The other resources that I wanted to make sure that we pointed out today is the Fiero Code resource. Now, if you tuned in yesterday, we did a whole class on this for our STEAM time for the kids. Fiero is really geared towards the 8 to 18 age bracket, so school-age students, but don't write it off if you're an adult. I've poked at this myself because I'm old enough that coding was not super much a thing when I was in school, so we didn't have a lot of this yet. So I'm coming at it a little bit later in life. And I thought the Fiero Code was a really interesting and easy way to start playing with it, to just wrap my head around the basics of how does it work to begin with. And it's a nice foundation that, once you kind of wrap your head around what it is and how it works, then diving into the more nitty-gritty tough stuff after that. Let me show you on our website here how you're going to get to it. So if we go back to library homepage, right now we have it as a shortcut on our homepage, so super easy to get to it that way. It's also going to be under, under our learning resource. There's a shortcut right now as well. It's a new resource, so we've got it plugged all over the place on our website. You'll also see it on hcplc.org/kids and hcplc.org/DIY. All of our main hubs have this shortcut right now. So all you do is you go to there, you click Start Coding, and it'll ask you to verify your library card. And once that's done, you're just going to set up a username and password or sign in with Google, whatever your normal preferred way of setting up your online access is. You'll get signed in or signed up. And I'll show you what it looks like real quick. It's got fun little activities with just really basic coding, getting started. So again, even if you're not a kid or if you're a kid at heart, highly recommend this as a starting point if this is a completely new topic to you. All right, so got that out of the way, back on our screen. And that's it for the content. So that's my slides. We have time left for a Q&A session. If you want me to backtrack on any of this, to go to one of the previous screens, or to give you more information, maybe more detail on any of the things that we covered, just type that into the GoToWebinar question box. Happy to answer that live while we're on the air. Give you a chance to type those in. In the meantime, while you're typing those questions in, I'll go over our contact information. So if you're maybe not able to type right now, you're on a hands-free device, you're streaming this and working on supper and you've got your hands full, don't worry about it. We're going to send out a survey to everyone after the class, like we always do, asking you how we did, what you thought of the class, if there's any topics that you'd like to see covered in the future. Definitely let us know. We want to be making the kind of content that you want to see, so let us know what you want to see. But in that, if you have any questions to follow up on this program, type it in that survey. We'll get that information and we'll be able to get back to you by email. But we always are available if you go to hcplc.org/contact. That has all of our contact information on it, our phone number. If you want to get us through the Ask a Librarian chat function or text message, all that information is on there. If you want to see when our next one is coming up, it's going to be hcplc.org/events and hcplc.org/tech-topics. And I see my slide didn't update. Dang it. Let me see here. We've got our next one coming up in, let's see what is now. Yes, online marketplaces. So October, I believe it's October 12th. It's a Wednesday. Let me double check and make sure that I'm giving the right date here. But the topic next month will be online marketplaces. So if you're looking at like a buy, sell, trade situation, that's what we are going to be going over. So yes, Wednesday, October 12th, we are going to be covering online marketplaces. And then in November and December, both of those months will have 2 tech topics each of those months. So we'll see you then for that, I hope. But definitely, got some questions rolling in here, great. Yeah, definitely let us know what you want to see in future classes. So we have a question here about will they be able to be certified when completing these courses? And are there ever coding classes with a teacher, or is it all self-taught? So yes and no. So the courses that you're going to see on LinkedIn Learning, for the most part, they're not really formal certification classes. And formal certification isn't typically something that's necessary with coding. It's more common that you're going to learn the fundamentals either on your own through these self-led classes where you're going to follow along with an online class to get started, and then start building projects and building a portfolio that way. There are what they call coding camps or coding boot camps. There's 100 different ways to do that. They are mostly privately organized through either companies that, like for-profit companies that will do it for a fee. There are universities that will have coding classes if that's more what you're looking for, is something that can be credentialed for you. That's also a way to approach it. But the classes that you're going to get through LinkedIn Learning, those are not for any kind of formal certification. But depending on which of the classes that you do, some of them are pretty intensive, where it's not just a 1-hour class that's going to tell you about a very broad overview of it. Some of them are more in depth, and I would, if I did a 20-hour course on there, I would list it on my resume and say, hey, I did a 20-hour course on the formatting with XYZ. So that's something to keep in mind. So no, the library resource ones are not for certification, but there are certification resources through universities and code camps and that sort of thing. And that goes right along with the other part of the question of are there ever teacher-led classes, or are they all self-taught? I'm going to say it's primarily following along with online courses in that self-taught sense. But yeah, again, some of the coding camps, the university-led classes are going to be more of that teacher-student structure. So good question. Yes, so audience was surprised that you don't need formal certification for this. Now, that's not to say that a specific job is not going to ask for a very specific degree plus a certain amount of years experience. Typically, what I find that you see for job listings is that they might say, we require a bachelor's degree in computer science plus 5 years experience with Ruby as a coding language, something along those lines. It tends to be more that they care about you having maybe a bachelor's degree or something similar, experience in lieu of, plus a certain amount of years experience working with the code. And the way that you would demonstrate that experience, if you're not using it for work, is that you would build that portfolio of projects that you work on, either just for your own sake, just drafting your code for yourself, or for freelance work. There's a lot of online communities where folks kind of exchange ideas on that and log that. So that's how you would kind of build that portfolio of your goodies. All right, I think that's it. I don't see any other questions hanging out there, but if you think of anything later on, definitely reach out to us and we will follow up and get back to you. So it was good to see everyone here again. Again, we'll see you. Apologize for the slide not being updated, but we will see you next month, Wednesday, October 12th. Same time, 5:30. We'll be covering online marketplaces. And then we'll see you again for 2 sessions in November and December. But fill out that survey. Let us know what tech topic you'd like us to cover. And we will see you soon. Thank you so much for joining us, friends. And we'll see you next time.